students. I'm Dr. Saman Ashfaq. I am an assistant professor of English in the Institute for Excellence in Higher Education, Bhopal. Today, I'm here to give you a very brief introduction to Indian diaspora literature. So, what are we learning in this course today? इस course के learning objectives क्या हैं? First and foremost, we need to understand the meaning of the term diaspora, the nuances that really explore the idea of how we understand the term diaspora in terms of its historical, social, and cultural relevance in today's world. The second point is how do we understand the thematic concerns of diaspora communities? Diaspora communities की क्या क्या problems होती हैं related to identity, related to the ideas of belonging and home. डायस्पोरा कम्युनिटीज़ होम किसको मानती हैं? उन कंट्रीज़ को जहाँ पर वो पैदा हुए थे या उन कंट्रीज़ को जहाँ पर वो जिन कंट्रीज़ को उन्होंने अडॉप्ट कर लिया है या जहाँ पर वो रह रहे हैं. The third aspect is how does diaspora writing reflect these concerns in terms of psychological conflicts associated with negotiating with multiple cultural identities. Then we also look at how do the issues of citizenship जिसे हम कहते हैं नागरिकता, equality, क्या दूसरी कंट्रीज में जाने के बाद हम उतना बराबर फील करते हैं? डू वी हैव द सेम राइट्स? डू वी हैव द सेम राइट्स? डू वी हैव द सेम सेंस ऑफ इक्वालिटी दैट ऑल दीज कंट्रीज हैव? एज वेल एज alienation and resistance to cultural assimilation. क्या हम उनके कल्चर का एक हिस्सा बनना चाहेंगे या हम अपनी कल्चरल आइडेंटिटी को उनसे अलग मानते हैं? The third thing and the last thing that we need to look at is the narrative techniques that these writers of this tradition use and create to create a new tradition of diaspora literature. जो writers है diaspora tradition के, वो लोग कौन सी concerns और कौन से themes को highlight करते हैं and how is it reflected in their literature. So how do we define the term diaspora? Diaspora word को हम कैसे define करते हैं? This term diaspora has actually been taken from Greek terminology. Greeks पहले लोग थे जिन्होंने इस word को use किया था and the word actually means to disperse or to scatter. मतलब किसी जगहों पे आप बिखर जाएं या किसी चीज़ को आप दूर दूर तक फैला दें. This word diaspora refers to people or populations or communities who have migrated from their homeland, जो अपनी देश को, अपने वतन को, अपनी कंट्री को छोड़ के दूसरी कंट्रीज में जाके बसते हैं for various reasons. It could be अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, इट कुड बी क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशंस, जो भी रीजंस हों, कुछ कम्युनिटीज़ या जो लोग अपनी कंट्रीज़ को छोड़ के दूसरी कंट्रीज़ में सेटल डाउन करते हैं, ये वर्ड उनको रिफ्लेक्ट करने के लिए, उनको डिफाइन करने के लिए यूज़ किया जाता है. Apart from that, this term also has religious connotations. This word was also used for the exile of Jews from the Roman Empire. आज से almost 3000 साल पहले, when the Jews were asked to leave the Roman Empire, the word diaspora was actually coined to refer to these people. Now, in today's times, how do we define what is diaspora literature? Diaspora literature is actually literature which is produced by individuals of diaspora origin. जो writers एक कंट्री से बिलोंग करते हैं पर दूसरी कंट्री में जाकर बस गए हैं या रहने लगे हैं या जनरेशन्स उनकी वहाँ पर ही बसती हैं, वहाँ पर ही रहती हैं, उनकी राइटिंग को, उनके लिटरेचर को हम डायस्पोरा लिटरेचर कहते हैं. दैट्स वन एस्पेक्ट ऑफ हाउ वी डिफाइन डायस्पोरा. इन द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड we will understand what are the themes and concerns of diaspora community. Diaspora communities या जो लोग होते हैं diaspora के, what problems and what issues do they deal with? The first is the idea of home and belonging. Now, for a lot of people who are living in foreign countries, the basic issue that they have is which country do they belong to, and जो अपनापन होता है, जो सेंस ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग, जो सेंस ऑफ आइडेंटिटी आपकी आपकी अपनी कंट्री में होती है, दैट फीलिंग इज व्हाट दे डोंट रियली हैव इन द अदर कंट्रीज इन विच दे आर लिविंग. सो होम एंड बिलोंगिंग इज वन important aspect of how do they define their identity. This next thing that we look at is identity crisis. Now, for a lot of people living in these communities, diaspora communities usually grapple with the sense of identity crisis. Who am I? Which country do I belong to? Am I an Indian or am I an American? Am I an Indo-American? Or any other factor that comes into defining their core self. History and culture is an important part of one of the themes and concerns of diaspora communities, simply because you are being alienated from your own history and culture. आप एक कंट्री के हिस्ट्री और कल्चर को छोड़ के आप दूसरे कंट्री में जब जाके बसते हैं, you have a sense of insecurity. Am I forgetting my faith? Am I forgetting my religion? क्या मैं अपने जड़ों से, अपने रूट से बहुत दूर जा रहा हूँ या जा रही हूँ? So these are feelings and emotions that people grapple with. Another major issue is language and multilingualism. Now, for example, as an Indian, my mother tongue is Hindi, but if I go and settle down in America, I would be speaking in English like the rest of the people. So there is again a fear of losing one's language and the idea of speaking too many languages which are not your own. So how do you then express yourself? Do we express ourselves in our mother tongue, or do we express ourselves in a language which belongs to another country? The last and the most important point is gender. Gender in terms of women. How do women grapple with this situation? How do women belonging to diaspora communities grapple with issues of insecurity, identity, their place within their family, so on and so forth? So, these are the major concerns of diaspora communities, and we will be looking at all of these in detail in the next few slides. We now try and understand what exactly does home mean. Now, for us, for people like us, home provides a feeling of warmth. It is a place of shelter. It is something which gives you a lot of security. Then why is it a major issue of conflict for the diaspora communities? Diaspora communities are almost always caught up in the conflict of defining the idea of home, because they are constantly living between the past and the present. The past, where they belong to, the country to which they belong to, and the present, for example, the place or the country where they are now working or living, or the place of emigration. So where exactly is home for these people? अगर आप लोगों ने बहुत पुराना एक गाना सुना हो, पंकज उदास का चिट्ठी आई है, that song captures the essence of what diaspora communities feel. And for example, even in very recent films like Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, you will find a lot of influences of where NRI people and NRI citizens feel for their own country, the idea of where does home belong for these people. So for a lot of these people, the common factors or the common feelings that they have is of alienation. That means the sense of isolation. एक अलग सा महसूस करते हैं बाकी सब लोगों के साथ. Rootlessness. You don't feel you belong to a country. You feel you are unrooted. Then you have a sense of nostalgia. आपको हमेशा पुरानी यादें आती हैं. You remember your country. You remember your relatives. You remember your people as much as the culture that you belong to. Another very important idea is long distance communication is not always possible. Now in today's times, of course, you have internet, you have email, and a lot of other things. But then in the olden times, for people to communicate from one country to another, letters were the only way. So long standing or long distance communication is not always possible due to social barriers, due to economic barriers. शायद आपकी financial condition इतनी अच्छी नहीं हो कि आप बार बार travel कर सके अपनी country को. शायद आपके political conditions उन countries की ऐसी हो जहाँ पर से आप एक बार एक जगह से दूसरी जगह आसानी से जा ना सके, और economic reasons also. So these are the basic issues of why we look at the idea of home being central to diaspora identity. Diaspora communities, why is home so relevant or so important to their sense of belonging to a particular place? Then the next issue that we are looking at is identity crisis. What kind of identity crisis do these individuals or people face? The first is the sense of disconnection with their homeland as well as the adopted land. These people who have been born in one country and living in another, how do they negotiate with these issues? How do they deal with these issues? So identity crisis is a major part of their problems that they face. Apart from that, you have questions of citizenship. For example, do I have the same rights as the people of the country in which I am living in? Or am I treated like a second class citizen? Do I a minority status? When you're living in a, let's say when you're living in a western country, when you're living in Europe, you find that all the people there are usually white, and you are a colored person, you are a colored race. So does that lead to some kind of discrimination? Does that lead to some kind of alienation amongst people? We see instances of racism all over the world where people, due to their color, skin color, or due to their nationality, suffer a lot. So this is one fear that people of these diaspora communities have, of being sidelined, of being marginalized, or being isolated by the mainstream culture of which they are a part. Apart from that, do they have equal rights? For example, do they have access to public services like healthcare and education? Are they being marginalized? Are they being forced to live on the margins of a community or a country of which they have become a part only because they need to earn some money. At the same time, one reason of identity crisis is intergenerational conflict. Now, for people who have been living in, let's say, another country for a very long time, जो फर्स्ट जनरेशन लोग होते हैं शायद उनको अपने घर की याद ज़्यादा आती है, बट चिल्ड्रेन हु आर born in the new countries that they belong to, they don't really feel that tie with their homeland. So there is a lot of conflict within families. फर्स्ट जनरेशन वाले लोग अपने घर को, अपनी कल्चर को, अपने रिलीजन को याद करते हैं. they kind of think of their sense of belonging with other, with their land. But the newer generations born, who are basically citizens of the country in which they are born, for example, they are either American Indians or any other community that they belong to, they find that it's difficult for them to identify with a home which is only a part of their memory or only a part of their parents' memory. So intergenerational conflict within families is also one reason as to why there is a lot of identity crisis because of this also. So this is one way of looking at, apart from home and belonging, apart from the idea of looking at how do you define home, identity crisis also leads to a sense of discrimination and alienation. Next, we come to history and culture. History and culture are important because they again give you a sense of identity. Now the dislocation, जब आप एक country से दूसरी country में जाते हैं, what really matters is not simply that you have moved from one land to another at a physical level, but you're not only leaving behind your home, you're also leaving behind your memories, you're also leaving behind your culture, you're also leaving behind your religious roots. आपका धर्म, आपकी संस्कृति, आपकी जो पुरानी यादें हैं, जो आपकी कल्चर की, आपकी कम्युनिटी की पार्ट थी, वो सब पीछे छूट जाती हैं. इस वजह से there is a sense of anxiety amongst these people and they don't really know to which country should they belong to. There is also a fear of not wanting to become a part of the new culture, because they think that by becoming a part of a new culture they may forget their roots. So this is one way how history and culture are also important in terms of understanding the problems that diaspora communities face. And apart from this, when we talk about history and culture, today we are living in a globalized world. हम कहते हैं कि पूरी दुनिया का एक कल्चर है, पूरी दुनिया की एक हिस्ट्री है, but at the same time when individuals travel from one place to another, this going from one place to another is not always, I would say, voluntary. मतलब अपनी मर्जी से कई लोग नहीं जाते हैं, but they are forced because of a lot of reasons. Now when this migration is forced, when this migration is under a lot of duress in terms of financial or economic reasons, this alienation with history and culture becomes very important, because people are not really going willingly. People are going because of certain reasons, because of certain conditions which force them to migrate from one land to another land. So that's one way of looking at how history and culture looks at the idea of diaspora communities. So before we move on to other aspects of diaspora literature and the communities, let's try and answer some of the questions that before we move on. So the first question is, how do diaspora communities engage with the longing for home? जब हमने ये समझने की कोशिश की है कि होम एक बहुत बड़ा इशू है, so how do diaspora communities understand or negotiate with this problem? Now, home is constructed and imagined in different ways by different people. The first way of doing it is through memory. आप याद करते हैं अपने पुराने घर को. That's one way of recollecting. That's one way of recreating your home. Then you try and do it through the idea of culture, आपकी संस्कृति के through, trying to sustain your culture in a different land, in a different country. Your religion, your faith is also extremely important in making you understand the place where you come from, as well as the history that defines to the idea of home. So all of these four things are central to creating or recreating the idea of home. The next question is, does history play a role in identity construction in diaspora culture? Yes, history plays a very important role in defining identity in the diaspora culture, because the essential roots where you belong to become a part of your identity, and through your history, through your culture, you try and recreate it in a new land. That's why you have celebrations of a lot of days, a lot of special days in foreign countries, the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, and so on and so forth. You have a lot of these communities trying to sustain their culture by celebrating their festivals in new ways. All of these things are ways in which you try and recreate your home and recreate your identity in a new land. Moving on to the next aspect of diaspora communities and culture is language. आपकी भाषा. How do you preserve your language? If I am living in another country, how do I preserve my mother tongue? How do I try and communicate in my mother tongue when I'm surrounded by people who are actually speaking another language, speaking another completely a new set of words altogether? So again, language is one way. It emerges as a marker of identity. This is also one way of looking at language. You also have language emerging as a tool for preserving religious culture and historical traditions. आप जब अपने religion को, अपने culture को recreate करते हैं, language is one way of connecting with it. You cannot really talk about your religion probably in another culture, in another language altogether. Now the problems that people speaking a different language in a new country face. नेटिव लैंग्वेजेस हम उन लैंग्वेजेस को कहते हैं जो हम जैसे लोगों की, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर हम बाहर जाके सेटल होते हैं तो हमारी जो मदर टंग है, या जो गुजराती, मराठी, हिंदी जो भी है, वो लैंग्वेजेस क्या प्रॉब्लम फेस करती हैं इन अ लैंड वेयर अ न्यू लैंग्वेज इज बीइंग स्पोकन. तो आपके ऊपर एक प्रेशर होता है कि आप वही लैंग्वेज बोलें जो लोग दूसरी कंट्री के बोल रहे हैं. आप इंग्लिश बोलें, आप जर्मन बोलें, आप फ्रेंच बोलें एट द सेम टाइम. सो नेटिव लैंग्वेजेस, हमारी अपनी जो लैंग्वेज होती है, वो एक तरीके से दब जाती है या इंफीरियराइज हो जाती है. पर एट द सेम टाइम यू ऑल्सो रियलाइज दैट मल्टीलिंगुअल सोसाइटीज़ जो होती हैं, जिन सोसाइटीज़ में काफ़ी सारी भाषाएं बोली जाती हैं, दे प्रमोट अ सर्टन काइंड ऑफ कल्चरल diversity, inclusivity. You are actually looking at societies which become a melting pot of different cultures, societies which reflect a different mosaic of different cultures. So language is one way of not only recreating your identity in a new land, but also looking at how societies coalesce and include different languages to form a new society. Now, the next aspect of diaspora communities, and a very important aspect, is the relationship of women and diaspora. Women, as you understand, are central to any society. Their role and their contribution to any society can never really be underestimated. But the experiences of women belonging to diaspora communities are very different from those of men. Why? Why is it so that we say that experiences of women are different from the experiences of men? First of all, in a foreign country, women face the pressure of recreating or resurrecting their culture. सबसे बड़ी जिम्मेदारी उनके ऊपर आती है कि वो अपने कल्चर को, अपने फैमिली वैल्यूज़ को एक नई कंट्री में, एक नई सोसाइटी में उसको जिंदा रखें. एंड एट द सेम टाइम, not only do they face patriarchy, for example, it is a male dominated society, they also have to negotiate with structures of race and class. Race, for example, जैसे आप अमेरिकन कंट्री में रह रहे हैं तो आप उन लोगों से, उनके कंट्री के रेस से, उनकी कंट्री के इश्यूज से आपको स्ट्रगल करना है. एट द सेम टाइम द क्लास डिफरेंस, हाई क्लास, lower class, middle class, all of these are central to defining their identities. Other problems that women face in this community is how do you recreate और how do you resurrect your cultural traditions. आप अपनी संस्कृति को, आप अपनी धर्म को कैसे किसी नई कंट्री में आप उसको सस्टेन करते हैं. So women face this responsibility. Apart from the added responsibility of earning a livelihood, apart from the added responsibility of looking after children, they have to try and recreate their own land in a new land. Apart from that, so then we look at the idea where how do women negotiate with questions of immigration and public policies. And now in many different countries, you find that women are paid lesser wages. For example, उनकी जो salary compared to men कम होती है, या उनको वो प्लेस सोसाइटी में नहीं मिलती जो उनको मिलनी चाहिए, बिकॉज दे आर इन अ न्यू लैंड. सो दे मे फेस डिस्क्रिमिनेशन इन इमिग्रेशन पॉलिसीज, पब्लिक हेल्थ केयर, पब्लिक पॉलिसीज की वजह से भी उनको काफ़ी सारे डिस्क्रिमिनेशन का सामना करना पड़ सकता है. बट सो women, but at the same time, it is not, these are only the, I would say that there are a lot of other aspects also. Women have also been responsible to creating new communities in a new land. They have contributed in terms of money, they've contributed in terms of adding a lot of rich heritage to a new, to the country that they have adopted. So it's a, I would say it's a double edged sword. For example, if you look at women writers of the Indian diaspora tradition, you find that a lot of writers are women. So they have not only negotiated with their identities and cultures, but they've also sought education, they've sought good jobs, and become a part of the mainstream culture of the country in which they belong to. Let's move on to the next part of our discussion, where we look at important writers of the Indian diaspora tradition. Till now, we have been speaking about the problems and the issues that diaspora communities or diaspora people face in a new land in different countries. But at the same time, when we look at Indian diaspora literature, we are looking at the contribution of diaspora writers to a new culture and a new country. Let me also add that diaspora literature all over the world has several aspects to it. We are only dealing with Indian diaspora literature simply because it's a part of your syllabus. But there is African diaspora, there is Asian diaspora, there are a lot of South African, American diasporas also in different parts of the world. Here, we are simply focusing on the idea of Indian diaspora literature. That means we are looking at the contribution of writers who have belonged to India or have been a part of the Indian subcontinent, but have now settled in or are living in various other parts of the country. Let's start with V.S. Naipaul. V.S. Naipaul is one of the most popular writers of the Indian diaspora tradition, and some of his important books also you may have read. A House for Mr. Biswas is one of the most important novels that he has written. He is fairly controversial. You find that he's dealt with a lot of issues, he's given a lot of statements for which he's always been in trouble. He is a writer who his grandparents and his ancestors belong to India, but then settled down in Trinidad and Tobago. In a Free State, A Bend in the River, The Enigma of Arrival, all of these novels are extremely important works that V.S. Naipaul has contributed to the Indian diaspora tradition. Let me also add here that the writers that you will be looking at here have been added simply because they are a part of your syllabus, but there are many more writers who are a part of this diaspora tradition. Salman Rushdie, for that matter, he has won the Booker of Booker prizes, and he wrote Midnight's Children, which was published in the year 1975, I believe, and he's one of the most important writers of the Indian diaspora tradition, again a fairly controversial person like V.S. Naipaul, let's say. The next authors that we are looking at are Kamala Markandeya and Shashi Deshpande. Both of them are, as you can see, women writers, and both of them have contributed to diaspora writing in a very, very rich way. Nectar in a Sieve is one of the most important works of Kamala Markandeya. Again, Some Inner Fury, Possession, The Nowhere Man, and Bombay Tiger. Kamala Markandeya herself was born in India but then settled down abroad, and most of her novels give a picture or recreate a picture of a very independent woman who has found her voice, who has found a place for herself in a new world. Similarly, Shashi Deshpande's novels are psychological novels. They don't just negotiate with issues of culture and identity, but they also look at what women face through in their own cultures and identities. A Matter of Time, Small Remedies is one of her most important novels. The Dark Holds No Terrors. She looks at various issues, for that matter, the marital relationship between a husband and a wife, the intergenerational conflict that we are looking at, that is also a part of her novels. You also find in her novels a sense of understanding that women come to by the end of the novel. You realize that her novels are essentially novels of transformation, novels which reflect a kind of a journey from one, let's say, they are novels of self-awareness, they are novels of, I would say, transformation, because they try and let a woman know her place in the world. So most of her novels essentially have very strong female characters, and most of them also show a woman trying to find a place in today's world. The novels that you see here are actually novels which are set in India. So rarely does she write about women in a foreign country. Most of her novels are set in India, in rural areas, and you find women trying to negotiate with familial relationships, trying to negotiate with their inner problems, trying to find a place professionally and personally in today's world. Next, again, you have two very important authors, Bharti Mukherjee and Chitra Banerjee. Bharti Mukherjee and Chitra Banerjee, both of them have also written very important novels. I think the Tiger's Daughter and Wife, two of her novels, Jasmine, The Holder of the World, and Desirable Daughters, are some of the important works of Bharti Mukherjee. Bharti Mukherjee lives in America. She also has written on issues that women face in a new land. Most of her novels reflect a woman transported or a woman transformed into another land and another culture, and trying to negotiate, trying to find a place for herself. Chitra Banerjee's novels deals mostly with myth. They deal with history, they deal with the recreation of folklore, and so on and so forth. The Palace of Illusions is a retelling of the Mahabharata from the Draupadi's point of view. The Forest of Enchantment, Mistress of Spices, has also been made into a film starring Aishwarya Rai. Sister of My Heart and The Last Queen again explore Indian myths and Indian folklore. So most of our novels are again rooted in Indian religion, mythology, and culture. Moving on to Amitav Ghosh. Amitav Ghosh, again a very powerful voice. The most important novel that he has ever written, or rather the novel that got him the kind of popularity, was The Shadow Lines. Shadow Lines is a novel written in the partition of India, the Indian subcontinent, and it deals with the idea of how the borders and boundaries that we find in today's world are essentially shadow lines. They don't really matter beyond a certain point. The Calcutta Chromosome is a part of science fiction. Glass Palace, Hungry Tide, In an Antique Land is a non-fictional work, but the Hungry Tide is set in the Sundarbans in West Bengal, and it again recreates the rich tapestry of culture, the rich tapestry of mythology and folklore that is a part of that land. Amitav Ghosh writes novels which negotiate with ideas of nature and man, novels which explore the relationship between nature and man. And Hungry Tide, you find a balance being created between man and nature, which otherwise this world is now coming to lack. Arvind Adiga, a fairly contemporary writer. The White Tiger is one of his most important works. It has also been made into a film. Last Man in Tower, again, Selection Day, based on the cricket selections that we find in our country, and Between the Assassinations, again, a novel written by him. All the four novels of Arvind Adiga deal with different aspects of Indian life and try and recreate India in a newer way. For example, Selection Day is set mostly in Mumbai, right? And it's also been made into a series, or what you call a an OTT series, which looks at the politics behind cricket and how do people negotiate, the extent to which people go to actually become a part of the Indian cricket team. So the glamour and the glitz that you find in the sports world is actually kind of shown in reality in these works. Jhumpa Lahiri is again another very famous women novelist. Interpreter of Maladies was her first work. It is actually a collection of stories that she wrote, and these stories also contain figures of women or pictures of women trying to negotiate with different problems of their own. The Namesake, also being made into a film later on, is another novel which looks at how uh, couples, or rather people, negotiate with newer identities in newer lands. Unaccustomed Earth and Lowland are some of her recent works. The Lowland is actually set in Naxalite India. It explores the idea of identity and conflict in West Bengal during the time the when the problem of Naxalism was at its height. So all of these writers that we are looking at right now, be it V.S. Naipaul, Kamala Markandeya, Shashi Deshpande, Bharati Mukherjee, Chitra Banerjee, Amitav Ghosh, Arvind Adiga, and Jhumpa Lahiri, please let me add, they are not the only ones. There are a lot of writers. You have Kiran Desai also, you have Anita Desai also, but since these writers are a part of your syllabus, we have tried to give you a very small vignette of the works of what they have done so far. Apart from that, let's revise and look at the important issues. Language is one issue, and women in their role in diaspora communities and how they negotiate with the identity of culture and living in a new land is one thing that they look at. Uh, these are the books that you could probably read. Some of the books that I mentioned here are by Jasbir Jain, Writers of the Indian Diaspora, Theory and Practice. This was published in the year 1998. You have a very simple book by Vijay Mishra titled The Literature of the Indian Diaspora, published in the year 2007. Salman Rushdie's collection of essays titled Imaginary Homelands, a very succinct title being given to this work. This is another very good way of introducing yourself to the world of diaspora writing. You also have a few PPTs that you could download. The links are given below. They contain an overview of the Indian diaspora tradition, and they'll give you a brief insight into the problems that or into the issues that diaspora communities and writers face for a very long time. I hope this lecture has helped you in understanding some of the core issues that diaspora communities and people face. इस lecture का aim यही था कि आपको एक basic insight दे सके, एक basic overview दे सके diaspora communities की, उनकी problems की, at the same time आपको दिखा सके कि diaspora writers किन किन तरीके से और किस किस राइटिंग्स के थ्रू किस किस राइटिंग्स के मीडियम से अपनी बात को दुनिया के सामने रखना चाहते हैं. This is just a bare outline. Please remember, this is not a detailed account of what diaspora writing contains, and that's why what is being shown in this lecture has only been a very small overview of what you can actually work on further and study further. As I said earlier, Indian diaspora literature is one part of the diaspora tradition. सिर्फ भारतीय अगर हम डायस्पोरा ट्रेडिशन को देखें तो हम खाली यहाँ पे उन्हीं लोगों की बात कर रहे हैं, बट देर आर सेवरल डायस्पोरास ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, सेवरल डायस्पोरा कल्चर्स all over the world, which can be looked into, which can be read into and analyzed. So thank you so much for your patient listening. I hope you really find this lecture informative, and thank you so much.